Hello, everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome back to the season three premiere of She Shoots podcast, Women Empowering Women in the Shooting Community. Today, we have episode 24, breaking down Bill C-21, covering the theme of organizations. So I'll start by introducing ourselves. My name is Regina Ruiz Ordóñez. I'm from the Canadian University Shooting Federation. We have Deneen Tomlin and Casey Gavinchuk from Lady Guns, and Kelly Melanson from Maple Seed Project, Sci-Fi Radio, and CCFR Women's Program. I would like to start by thanking our sponsors, Cabela's Canada Outdoor Fund, positively shaping the future of the outdoors. Every cent donated by writing up at checkout goes towards helping Canadian organizations just like ours. Savage Arms, home to the Stevens single-shot rifles and shotguns. Beretta, family-owned and operated since 1526. Vortex, the best in optics, and Canada First Ammo. If you have any questions or comments throughout the show, make sure to leave them in the chat box below. Doing so will automatically enter you in the draw for today's giveaways. Today we have a She Shoots t-shirt, Canada First Ammo prize pack, and a CCFR prize pack. Wow, that was hard for me today. Definitely a premiere. Deneen and Kelly, please take over.
Thank you very much, Regina, and welcome everybody to episode 1 of season 3. We're very excited. So today's guest, Tracy Wilson, I get the honor of introducing you and reading your bio, and then we're going to get into the questions everybody wants to ask and wants to hear the update on. So I'm going to read this. So let's hear a little bit about Tracy Wilson. For those of you who don't know, Tracy is the Vice President of Public Relations for CCFR. Since its inception, she's been a significant part of the team and was one of the original incorporating directors. Her role and skills have grown over the years, making her a powerful public-facing advocate. Tracy is the Vice President of Public Relations for the CCFR and Canada's only in-house registered gun lobbyist, and we couldn't be more proud. Her political influence and tenacious spirit make this lady an asset to the CCFR team and to all Canadian gun owners. Not only is Tracy the VP of Public Relations and the registered lobbyist for CCFR, but she is also a published author, having written articles for women's hunting magazines. Tracy and the CCFR CEO, Rod Giltaca, can be seen regularly on the CCFR radio podcast and YouTube channel with their Week in Review. If you don't check it out, please do. She's the original CCFR calendar Gunny Girl cover model and one of the CCFR Women's Program's executive team members. In her free time, which is in really big quotes, Tracy can always be found at the range doing special events like National Range Days and Women's Introductory Range Days. She is a familiar face at the sports and gun shows like the Toronto Sportsman Show and TACCOM. To round it all out, Tracy is a proud mama, a grandma, a sports shooter, a seasoned hunter, and Canada's one and only gun goddess. Welcome to the show, Gun Goddess Tracy Wilson.
Well, that's it. That's the show. Wow, I feel like I'm blushing over here. That was really nice.
Is it warm? Is it warm?
Oh, yeah. Woo.
Well, we're really excited to have you on. We're truly blessed to have you. Not only are you somebody who Canadians look up to, but you're somebody who has the gun pulse of the gun community. You sit there and that's what you do. You look at and you review what's going on in the gun community here in Canada, what's impacting us, and we're so grateful to have you on. Recently,
well, I am really happy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
And season 3, you're our first guest for season 3. Woohoo! I think it's perfect to have you on. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself, specifically, like where you're located, not so they can come and visit you, but so that they know.
I dare them.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, I'm located here in the nation's capital. Tonight, it is a blustery, windy, snowy mess. We've finally getting some snow. Not that I'm complaining about the gorgeous weather that we've been having, but yeah, I'm here in the toilet of the country in beautiful Ottawa, Ontario. I've been here for some time. It was my father's last posting. I come from a military family.
Okay.
My dad served for almost 30 years with the Air Force. We landed here and have been here ever since. I moved around a little bit, but always find my way back. I'm also a mom to two girls, the two grown girls. They're both grown up. Ashley has my grandson Jace, who I adore, just turned 11. Happy birthday, Jace.
Happy birthday.
And my other daughter, Summer, is currently serving in the Middle East. She's deployed on an 8-month long deployment that feels like about 20 years at this point. But yeah, she's doing well. And I just shipped off another care package to her.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got Colin, my partner in crime and in love. And, we kind of travel around, do all kinds of stuff. If we're not talking about guns, we're talking about chihuahuas. And
True.
yeah, that's about it. Just trying to hold down the fort here in Ottawa and keep the tidal wave of liberal gun control at bay.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Yes, thank you so
Mhm.
much for that.
Trying.
We are all very confused, so hopefully we'll shed some light on the topic of Bill C-21 tonight. So, but before we do that, we probably should know, for those who might not know what CCFR stands for and what you do and how you do it, how about a little brief background on CCFR?
Yeah, so the CCFR is probably Canada's youngest national firearms advocacy group.
Yeah.
We were born in 2015, so we have existed solely under an unfriendly liberal government. And we were kind of born out of that. Like, the tides are changing. We're going into liberal regime, and we knew things were going to be bad. We were all members of other groups, various
Yeah.
groups done a lot of good work in the past. But we felt like maybe it was time for a fresh perspective, something a little more modern, a little more media savvy. And we got together, formed this group. We're kind of a big tent. We've got people from all across the country, from every corner of our community, hunters, sport shooters, collectors, former military, cops, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I think we like to refer to ourselves as sort of the public relations arm of the firearms community. We've got a national TV show as well as the podcast. Rod and I were just doing a count of our interviews for 2023. Between the two of us, we did over 100 mainstream media
Oh,
interviews, which is grueling if you've ever done them. It's a lot. But yeah, just sort of, trying our best to represent the Canadian firearms advocacy or firearms community in a positive light, and at the same time educate non-gun owning Canadians. That's our whole dilemma. And that's sort of why we developed the CCFR was, I've been a gun owner a long time, probably about 27 years. And I remember even back when I was first starting, you were sort of told to keep your hobby quiet, don't talk about it, don't let
mhm.
you own guns, don't put those stickers on your car, don't wear those t-shirts, and I think we sort of did ourselves a disservice by doing that because we failed to normalize gun ownership. And then, we saw in 2020 with the AR-15 ban, the OIC, people didn't even know we owned that stuff. Didn't even
Right.
handgun freeze. They didn't even know we owned that stuff. And I feel like that's, we sort of set ourselves up for failure there. So,
Yeah.
we've developed a variety of different programs like National Range Day, which is an opportunity for Canadians all across the country to go into ranges, to go to open houses and just see for themselves what it's about. And at the end of the day, we know that the very best way to influence someone's opinions about guns and gun ownership is to take them to the range. You can fight on social media all day long. You're probably not going to ever convince anybody. So if you can just say, hey, let's put our differences aside, head to the range, try it out, at least they come away with a different perspective. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're trying a whole bunch of different stuff, fighting the government in court, trying to educate Canadians, trying to correct mainstream media, disinformation and misinformation. And yeah, just raise a ton of money to keep this fight going, but we think it's worth it. We think our members and supporters are worth it. So
And
yeah.
that's an important point that maybe everybody doesn't know, Tracy. Before we move to the bill itself, how does CCFR raise and manage its money?
Yeah, so we're a big organization with a very tiny staff. So, member dollars are very dear to us. We came from such humble beginnings. We haven't been around for 30 or 40 years with big bankrolls and tons of club money rolling in. And, so we because we started so humble, it's sort of gave us that ability to really be careful with member dollars. So we
Yeah.
operate from satellite offices, which like you're in my basement right now. This is you're in my home, right? Like this is how we do it. We save a lot of money that way. We keep our costs very low. We've got a very small staff of 6, including both Rod and I, so 4 staff alongside Rod and myself. And we output a ton of work for such a small group, and we're able
Yeah.
to do that because we have over 300 field officers from coast to coast. And these are volunteer members who have come forward, and said, okay, I want to be a member, but hey, I want to do more. I want to go work at gun shows. I want to participate in events. I want to host range days. I want to do more than just pay my $40 a year for a membership. I want to help educate Canadians. And we couldn't do anything that we do without those people, because the power of 6 is very small. Doesn't matter how good we are. It's very small. It's not enough. We need hundreds. We need thousands. So so that's kind of how we started, was under an unfriendly government. And we are looking forward to sort of transforming our role from fighting to consulting and
Yeah.
helping, and helping craft proper public safety policy that will have a positive impact on the safety of Canadians, instead of solely focusing on gun owners, which is what this government has chosen to do. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that that's something that you and Rod are seen as. You're seen as reasonable. You're also, by the media, the media reaches out to you because you're able to articulate gun owners' stances, and you're able to give a great interview. You're able to support gun
Thank
owners
you.
and present us in a good perspective, as well as also, I do believe that you will be the voice, or the organization that politicians will come to get consultation on what they should be doing, and how can they be more effective with public safety. And I think
Absolutely.
that's a really important role for the CCFR.
Yeah, and that stuff's already happening because
Yeah.
we are in a minority government right now, propped up by the NDP, which of course could fail at any time. The next scheduled federal election would be October of 2025. I don't see how this government could possibly last until then. So, I mean, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to make sure that the government in wait is ready. They know what they've got to do, what they should do. And, there's a lot of voices at that table that are really important, and ours is one of them. So it's great.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Why don't we
Let's
talk
get into
about?
it.
Go ahead. Sorry, Deneen.
I was agreeing with you. I said, let's get into it then.
Okay, let's get into Bill C-21 then. Tell us
Right.
all about it. What is it?
Oh, it is a horrible mess. It could have been a lot worse, and we'll get to that. But C-21, the most egregious part of the bill is that it enshrines that handgun freeze into law.
Okay.
And of course, there's 2 ways that parliamentarians can craft rules for Canadians. There's legislation, which is C-21, or there's order in council, an OIC. An order in council completely circumvents the entire democratic process. There's no debate, there's no voting. It's like an executive order. This is the way we're doing it, and that's it. And nobody gets anything to say about it. If you don't like it, take it to court.
Right.
Legislation, however, goes through the democratic process in both the House of Commons and the Senate. It's a long process. C-21 was 19 months from tabling to royal assent. And there's a lot of things that happen in between. There's debate, there's committee study in both the House and the Senate. There's consultations, there's witness testimony. Rod and I both testified against C-21 in the House and the Senate. And the worst part of C-21 is enshrining that handgun freeze, which of course, it's a little bit different than a ban. I just call it like a slow ban.
Yeah.
It's not the same as the OIC. The OIC guns that were banned in 2020, we're not even allowed to use them or take them to the range. However, with the handgun freeze, all the handguns that you own now, you're allowed to keep, and you're allowed to continue to use at your range or your club like you did before. However, upon your death, your grieving widows and your children or your loved ones will be greeted by the police at the door, who will come to seize your firearms without compensation and destroy them. So that's a big problem for a lot of us, because some of us have an incredible amount of money sunk into these things. But at the same time, I know for me, the firearms community, the firearms themselves, the people I've met, the places I've gone, the events I go to. It's everything to me. And my
Mhm.
family knows that. So, I think about some of the mementos I have from my own father when he passed. I've got, some of his military memorabilia. Well, why? Because it meant everything to him. That was his identity. And it's sort of the same thing with this. It may sound silly, but for those of us in this community, we know that our entire social circle and our network is wrapped up in the people, places, and events that we go to
Yep.
and in these tools that we use. So, that to me, that's the worst part. A lot of people ask me, is it able to, could those conservatives come along and undo that? Yeah, of course, they can repeal the bill. Um, there's a couple other parts in the bill that are really weird too. In fact, the entire thing should have been scrapped by all rights and
Yep.
start again. If the idea was to create proper public safety policy. There's some new red and yellow flag measures that were added to the existing red flag laws.
Okay.
So the anti-gun groups and the liberals would have you believe that there's no red flag laws in Canada, that wife beaters and abusers are just running around with guns. Completely ridiculous. Of course, Canada has red flag laws in existence, and we know that if anybody had a legitimate public safety concern about a gun owner, a quick call to the RCMP 1-800 number. See how that goes. It's a kick your door in, take your guns and ask questions later kind of situation. Or
Yes.
if you have an immediate concern, you call 911, right? So with these new measures, it forces the victim, let's say a domestic violence victim, to go to court and appeal to the judge to have your firearms taken away. Like, I don't know. I mean, I've been through all kinds of situations in my life, and I've lived through some of those horrible experiences. And, on one hand, I've got the idea that if I had an immediate concern, I could call the police, call 911, and they're going to come to the door and get me into a safe situation and fix it. If it wasn't an immediate concern and I wanted to call the RCMP, I could do that as well and see how that goes. Now they're expecting you to go to court and
Yeah.
fight for yourself. So, women's groups and women's, domestic violence, anti-violence types groups, they all opposed these measures in C-21. In fact, Polly Souviens, the anti-gun lobby out of Montreal, Quebec, they also oppose these measures. But because taking them out of the bill would have been an amendment, they
Yeah.
chose not to do that because it was more important to ban your handguns than it was to protect women. Another silly part in C-21 is they increased the penalty for smuggling guns from the maximum penalty from 10 years to 14 years. And I've had media ask me, well, what's wrong with that? And I say, absolutely nothing. If you want to be a gun smuggler and break the law and put Canadians at risk, yeah, you should get the book thrown at you. The problem here is nobody ever got the 10 years to begin with, let alone 14. So it's sort of a virtue signaling um, measure because nobody's going to get the 10 anyways, let alone the 14. Um, there's a new offense for altering a magazine to be able to hold more cartridges than is the legal limit.
But that
And
was already in effect.
yeah, doesn't that already exist? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it does. So it's already an offense to possess a cartridge that can hold more than the allowed or a cartridge magazine that can hold more than the allowed amount of bullets. Well, now the act of altering it is also an offense. Okay, when I don't know what that solves. And you would actually legitimately have to catch the person in the act of altering it to prove that they're the ones who altered it. So what are the chances of that? Zero. It's never going to happen. No one's ever going to be charged with it. Um, they require an automatic surrender of your firearms upon revocation of your license.
Correct.
I, d- you know, I'm a big proponent of things that make sense to me, but I'm always weary of anything that could be abused or misused, right?
Mhm.
If you've done something bad enough to have your firearms license revoked, chances are, yeah, you probably shouldn't have your guns in your cabinet. However, there are always those cases where maybe that revocation wasn't deserved, and you fight it and you get your license back. Well, then what? Like, are you going to get your guns back? Probably not.
No.
So that's where, there's got to be a balancing line there between public safety and the rights of Canadians to their property, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then another funny part is a ban on all future semi-auto long rifles. So this was sort of a compromise that they made for the anti-gun lobbies.
Mhm.
You'll remember there was 2 amendments that the Liberals snuck in on the 11th hour. So this was back during debate in the House of Commons. This is juicy gossip, actually. So we all went, we had the bill in front of us, the text of the bill, and that's what we got to speak to. I think it was 114 different witnesses came forward to speak either in support of the bill or in opposition to it. And after that was all done, in the very end debate stage, after everyone had spoke to it, they sneak in these 2 amendments, G4
Correct.
and G46. And what these were was 2 things. It was a list of basically all semi-autos that weren't already banned would be banned, and it would have enshrined that May 2020 OIC in legislation, making it more difficult to ever overturn.
Correct.
And this was tricky because everyone had already spoken to the bill. That wasn't in it. So how do you speak to something you didn't know was going to be in it? And it was a big mess. It was like 4 months of fighting. In the end, they ended up having to withdraw those amendments. But of course, that infuriated the anti-gun lobby groups because, anything that's semi-auto or whatever, they assume that it's some sort of assault style firearm, right? So they wanted them all banned. So what they've done now is basically any new bans that are designed and manufactured after the date of C-21 receiving royal assent would be banned. So it closes the market on anything new, modern, or cool that might come
Right.
along and makes it incredibly difficult for us to ever get anything new or fun, right? We're kind of stuck with whatever was already existing. There will be ways to sort of work around this. There always is, work within the law to comply with it, but kind of get around it. But yeah, it's very tricky. And then lastly, they promised within C-21 to resurrect CFAC. That's the Canadian Firearm
Right.
Advisory Committee.
Mhm.
And you'll remember back in the days of Ralph Goodale, they had that committee. I think Olympic sports shooter
Linda
Linda Keiko
Keiko.
was
Yeah.
vice
Yeah.
chair, alongside Natalie Provost, who was a victim at the Polytechnique shooting.
Mhm.
She was shot 4 times, legitimate victim of a horrendous tragedy. And that, a bunch of other people sat on that committee as well. Well, they promised to resurrect that committee, CFAC, give them the lists from G4 and G46 and let them decide what needs to be banned. And then they'll just ban it through OIC in the future. And there'll be no debate or discussion about it. So yeah, it's a total mess. It's a huge loss that we weren't able to stop this bill, but we knew we couldn't. They've got the votes to do it. The focus now at this point, really, it needs to be on a new government that's focused on credible public safety measures and that's willing to repeal some of these punitive measures that do nothing but cause more division amongst Canadians at a time when we don't need it. So
Mhm.
So until we have a new government, Tracy, I think a lot of gun owners out there or future PAL holders, people that want to go become hunters or shooters, they want to know, what does this mean to me now? Can I go do these things? So Kelly put together a bunch of really great questions. And the first one is what about pistols? Can I buy it? Can I inherit it? Can I go get some replacement parts if the one I love and I'm shooting today legally is broken?
So there's a couple of things there. Can you go buy new pistols right now? No.
No.
Can you inherit them from your loved ones when they pass away? No. There is some things you can do. Retail firearm businesses, licensed Canadian firearms retailers, are able to purchase them from you. Now, would they be likely to? Possibly, because a lot of them, some of them have ranges within their facility, so they'd be looking for firearms. And that is one place that you are allowed to relinquish them to. You can't sell them to each other and you can't give them to each other. So you can either basically turn them into a licensed firearm retailer that would be able to take them or surrender them to police for destruction. That's it. Those are your only choices, which
Correct.
is why it's imperative to get a government that will repeal this bill because it's purely punitive. What was the last part of that question?
Replacement parts. Can you
Yeah,
purchase
parts.
those? You can.
Yeah, you can. So, I mean, parts are scarce, right? Like it's
Yep.
one of those things now that handguns aren't able to be bought in stores. retailers may be, getting less parts in, less inventory in. But yeah, call around, ask in the groups, Google it. Yeah, like you can still get some parts. But yeah, it's tough, and it's a crappy situation that we're in, but we're gonna work hard to fix it.
Yeah. There's questions people were asking about if they have their RPAL, but they haven't been able to buy a pistol because of the handgun freeze, and they weren't able to get one before the freeze deadline. If they're able to still actually borrow pistols, and if they have their RPAL, they still can. They can apply for an ATT as long as they have that classification.
Yeah, that's right. And don't forget, you can still take people to the range under your
Correct.
supervision and they can shoot your guns. And that's,
Mhm.
I've met a lot of people that were trying really hard to get their license in under the wire. And, they were not very quick at approving them. Shocker.
Mhm.
I'd put my tinfoil hat and almost say that was intentional, but in any event, yeah, I've been taking a lot of people to the range myself, with my handguns so they can try them. I've got 4. I don't have a lot, but the ones I have are pretty cool. And yeah, so that's always an opportunity. And this year, National Range Day will be even more important for that reason,
Yep.
because as it stands right now under this liberal regime, there won't be any new handgun owners. So people who maybe wanted to try it or see, like, I wasn't sure about the liberal handgun ban. I'm not sure about these things. This is an opportunity for them to try it out and stop supporting that bad policy.
Yeah.
So yes, you can still borrow handguns and you can still take each other to the range.
Perfect. You did talk about how it's essentially the handgun freeze is going to um, cripple
Mhm.
Canadian competitions, so world class shooting competitions. What are the impacts of C-21 specifically on retailers, clubs, gunnies, competition,
Yeah.
Olympians,
Like,
Olympians?
future
Yeah.
Olympians.
yeah, so the impacts are absolutely devastating. I was reading some numbers actually just recently that, every retailer is different. Some stores
Yeah.
cater more to hunting, some
Yeah.
stores cater more to like the sport shooters or the tactical guys or whatever. But on average, handguns were 30 to 40% of their business. So you can
Hmm.
imagine any business after going through everything that we've been through the last, what, 3 or 4 years. We had pandemic and shutdowns and all this ridiculousness, and then
Honestly.
all these changing, ever evolving liberal gun control rules, and then to lose 30 or 40% of the product that you would normally sell, it's absolutely devastating.
Mm.
We've lost a lot of gun shops already
Yep.
because of that. They just can't keep their head above water, and they're still sitting on the unsellable inventory from the May 2020 gun ban.
Hmm.
So, whether or not they they've paid those invoices, they're also paying storage on them, they're paying insurance on them, and they've been sitting for 4 years in storage. So,
Hmm.
yeah, the whole thing is devastating to the firearms industry. As far as sport shooters, I mean, you've got different classes of sport shooters. You've got your really hardcore IPSC and IDPA guys and
Yep.
girls, who are out there enjoying their sport, and right now they're still able to. But to think that we're going to be the last generation that can do that to me, it's completely unacceptable. Like that's not okay. I mean, you go to nationals now, and I mean, a lot of them are my age, and I start to wonder, like, oh, do we have a time limit on this? And we absolutely do. So it's
Yep.
devastating. There is a carve out in C-21 for Olympic shooters. However, if you ask Linda Keiko, and she testified to this in Senate committee on the study of C-21, that she has tried to acquire pistols under the Olympic exemption. She's literally on Team Canada Olympic shooting team, and she hasn't been able to acquire any. So they're not giving the exemptions that are in the bill, let
Hmm.
alone to anybody else. So, yeah, so far it's been a complete 100% negative on our community, on our sport shooters, on organized sport, and most definitely on retailers. The
Yeah.
impact is horrible with zero public safety benefit.
I the clubs themselves, it's going to be devastating for them as well. If we can't continue to add people to our sports, clubs will also be closing too.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
if you can't go take your AR to the range and
Yeah.
then, you start running out of handgun owners, you'll see those clubs close, and that's terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big part of my community and my social network is going to the club. I know
Mhm.
my local club here in Ottawa also supports shooting for Ottawa Police Services, the RCMP, OPP, and Parliamentary
Exactly.
Protective Services. They all
Yeah.
shoot at our club. Well, if our club closes down because we just don't have enough to support it, I don't think anyone's really thought about that. Every single level of government would be impacted.
Yep.
Municipal police and provincial police, and then of course the federal law enforcement and parliamentary protective services. So,
Mhm.
where are they going to get their range time in? I don't know. Nobody really thought about that, right? It's about
No,
votes. So,
So,
exactly.
so, so we've talked about law enforcement professionals. We've talked about the impact to sport shooters all the way up to Olympians. There's always that divide between, oh, but I'm a hunter. I only shoot long guns. Let's talk about that a little bit, Tracy, and talk about how it affects those people that shoot for hunting reasons.
yeah, well, it's funny because I think, I don't think it's any secret to anybody here or anybody listening that there's been sort of some division over the years. And I think the Liberals are really good at intentionally playing into that. They definitely overstepped with G4 and G46 because
Mhm.
they riled up the hunters, they riled up First Nations people. And, obviously they had to
Peop
withdraw.
Yeah,
Um,
people
you
who
know,
enjoy hockey, they riled up
yeah,
the hockey
they
players.
aggravated the hockey players, everybody was upset. And people get mad and I see them sort of arguing online, different gun owners and calling each other names like fuds and whatever. I'm not a big supporter of that because I've always thought no one's ever won me over in an argument by calling me names or accusing me of things or putting me down for not doing enough. My idea is, okay, so if we need more hunters involved in advocacy, because we talk about being 2.3 million gun owners, but we're not united. So my goal is to get us more united. So we have a little project. I call it like Operation Infiltration. Rod laughs at me when I talk like that, but I'm actually headed later this month down to Nashville, Tennessee, to the SCI International or SCI Safari Club International convention. It's their annual convention. Thousands and thousands of hunters from all around the world, but in
Mhm.
particular, a lot from Canada. And I'm going to sit down with the Canadian delegation and I'll have an opportunity to discuss with them. Next month, Rod is heading to another weekend convention with the Wild Sheep Society of BC. We're starting to branch out into these groups where, we form natural advocacy partnerships with them, of course, but we haven't really worked side by side with them yet, but we need them. Excuse me. So we're doing that. Of course, we're at the Toronto Sportsman Show. Rod and I will also be flying out to Saskatoon. Saskatoon. I think it's actually in Regina, but it's the Saskatoon Wildlife Federation um,
Saskatchewan
Sportsman
wildlife.
Show.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to the one in St. Hyacinthe. It's like the Montreal area sportsman show. So we're really like digging our heels in and saying, okay, if we can't get the hunters to come to us, we're going to go to them. I mean, we do have a lot of hunters that do support us, of course, but we want more. And I think now's the time because they saw what happened with G4 and G46. They
Yeah.
were in the hot seat. They fought back against it. We had those amendments withdrawn. But don't forget, CFAC, Canadian Firearms Advisory Committee, is sitting in the wings just waiting to ban your hunting rifles, and they absolutely will. So, there isn't time to waste, and that's why we're like scrambling, looking around. Okay, how else can we get more involved, help bridge those partnerships and those networks with the hunting groups, and let's really be that big, strong lobby that we really need altogether.
We need
Right.
Yeah, we
And
need to be united. Yep.
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, and when speaking about hunting, I don't want to miss the folks that use shotguns, whether they're using slug or they're
Mhm.
using a semi-auto for waterfowling or an over and under for upland game. They will not be left behind.
Oh,
To
no. Oh, no, this has all been incremental, and if you look
Yeah,
at how they've done it, they've done it exactly that. First, they came for the black gun shooters, and then they came for the handguns. They're coming for these other guys. They already have, and they're coming back for them. And Rod hadn't made a good point on the CCFR podcast the other day, and he mentioned this to me. And so Rod's not a hunter. I'm a longtime hunter, and for the most part, I think most of us agree that hunting was a little more accepted by the general
Palatable.
public than
Yeah.
maybe running around with a handgun or an AR-15 at the range. But he said, think about it, Tracy. I'm not a hunter. I don't do it. And, that's fine. You guys do that. That's great. I've eat it. He's never been into it, right? He's a relatively new, a gun owner. But he said, how hard would it be for them to turn the public on hunters? And he said, think about it. You've got these big burly guys and girls, and they're out in the bush. And excuse me, all it would take is for them to run a couple clips of beautiful little deers running through the meadow, or whatever, and talk about you guys shooting them in the face or doing this or doing that. It would be like that easy to change the public's perception of hunting. And look how quickly and swiftly they were able to divide people and divide Canadians, turn them against gun owners, right? People are, oh yeah, 80% of them support this stuff, right? I think it would be pretty easy to pivot on that, and they're already starting. So
Yeah, they are.
yeah, I'm not mad at people who haven't formerly been involved in advocacy. My wish is for every gun owner to not have to be involved in this. We shouldn't have to be. None of us should have to do this. We
No.
should just be able to follow the rules, keep that social contract with the government, follow the rules, keep our guns, and leave us alone, right? But unfortunately, that's not our reality. So, yeah, we're going to reach out into the hunting community and really work on those partnerships and networks.
So leaning into that a bit, Tracy, Kelly made a good point when she put together some notes for tonight's show about a campaign that kind of organically started with a particular athlete named Carey Price, and how that became a bit of a movement. So we don't necessarily have to talk about him. You're welcome to, but let's talk about people that have famous names that are from the Canadian sports culture, or maybe perhaps somewhere else, who are also part of the gun community and or the hunting community. How will that help us? What can we do? What did we see come out of that? What was it? I am with Carey Price hashtag.
Yeah, well, so that was, when they introduced those amendments, G4 and G46 to C-21, and of course it banned a whole bunch of, basically almost all hunting rifles and shotguns.
Correct.
There was shotguns in there. There was
Yep.
single shots. Like, it was crazy, right? You saw a lot of people speak out, and Carey Price, famous, I think he's a Montreal player, isn't he?
Goalie for the Montreal Canadiens. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm a gun girl.
I don't like the Montreal Canadiens, so.
Well, Carey Price, he's been a gun owner for a long time. It wasn't a huge secret, but he's a hockey player. He's a famous NHL hockey player. Hockey was his thing, right? So when these amendments came along and banned his hunting guns, he was like, you know what? This is BS. And he made this infamous post with him, in his camo outfit out hunting. And he was like, I'm not a criminal. I'm not responsible for this stuff, whatever. And it took off like wildfire because this is somebody who's a household name in this country. He's well known. People look up to him. And it's like, for me, it bridges that gap where, Canadians sort of, normies sort of have this view of gun owners as like these dark, mysterious people with nasty guns. And it's like, no, we're literally everybody. We're your kids' teachers. We're the school bus drivers, soccer coaches. We're the lawyers, the doctors. We're the NHL goalies. Like, we're everybody, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is a gun owner. So yeah, I really like that. And he took a lot of heat for that because, of course, it came out at the same time as the anniversary of the Polytechnique shooting, and he took flack for that. And for me, that right there epitomizes the problem, because they're equating his hunting and sports shooting to a mass shooting that happened when I don't even know if he's born yet, and when you try and make that false connection, you anger people.
Yeah.
And Carey Price has never backed down. He's a supporter of the CCFR. He's a lifetime member, and he doesn't care what they say. So
yeah. He finally had enough and said, I need to say something. I need to take a stand. And he did. And he quite frankly, he united Canada's. He united firearms owners as hunters and sport shooters together. So
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
something significant. We're not Carey Price. I'm not Carey Price, but and I'm only one person. However, I am one person, and when you put me with Tracy Wilson and
Yeah.
Deneen and Anna and Kelly and all the other people, we become a powerful group of people when we are more than just one person and one
Oh,
voice.
yeah. Well, you look
So
at the messaging out of the liberals and the anti-gun lobbies, and they talk about the powerful gun lobby, and like I kind of giggle when I read it because it's like I am, I am the
they're,
gun lobby. I'm the
they're talking about you,
gun lobbyist,
but they're
and
also talking about Fred, who's he owns an SKS and he likes
yeah,
to go out and blink, and
like we're
shoot.
all the gun lobby. Like we're
Yeah.
just normal people that sort of band together and said, "Hey, we're kind of under attack. Let's try and do something together." And it's just, I don't know. It's funny to me to hear them talk about us like some dark force
Organized
out
group.
there.
And
I'm
yeah,
like,
well, we are an organized group.
yeah.
But can we go back a little bit, because I think there's some confusion about the magazine. You did talk about magazine restrictions and
Mhm.
amendments. There's people that are confused about whether they can have rifles, magazines that
Yeah.
carry
So
more than 5.
I
Go
know
ahead.
what they're talking about. So the part that was in C-21 that came into force as the bill received royal assent, so it's already existing, is the new offense for altering a mag.
Mhm.
But there's another magazine thing that's coming, and it'll be implemented through an OIC at
Right.
some point. It's in the implementation chart listed under the OICs, but it hasn't happened yet. And what they're going to do there is what they're saying is, right now you've got magazines. Most guns are not designed for the Canadian market. They're designed for big markets like the Americans or the Turkish or whatever, right? They're designed other places. And to make them Canada compliant, they put a rivet or a pin
Yeah.
in the magazine to make sure that we can't load more than 5, right? Well, what they're saying is they're saying that's no longer good enough. And it's like, well, that's how we've been doing it for a long time. It's been good enough this whole time. So to ban those magazines, like what does that even look like? How what do you even do, right? And the problem with that is it would also make it very difficult to find a magazine that's permanently altered that could, like I guess you could pop out the rivet or the pin. Like I said, it's already an offense, but and nobody does it, so it's not a problem. But basically what they're saying is they're no longer satisfied with our, standard capacity magazines. People call them high capacity. I call them standard capacity. 10 or 30 round magazines with this rivet in it. They're saying that's no longer going to be acceptable. Now that's not in place yet. So right now
Right.
you're fine. But they're threatening and saying that they will do something about that through OIC. I think they're just trying to figure out what that looks like
Yeah.
because what would you do? Go collect what 30 million magazines from across the country? That's never going to happen either.
And
So,
we're talking about all magazines, whether it be rifle or
yeah,
handgun
like they're talking
magazines.
about center fire magazines. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like I've got AR mags, I call them, but they fit in other firearms as well, but they're
Mm,
obviously not made in Canada. So they're 10-round magazines that are pinned to 5, right? Or some of them are 30-round magazines.
well, there's some
So
confusion around that too, whether it's actually center fire or if it's all, because in the amendment, or sorry, in the bill itself, it said all long gun, and that includes
yeah,
things
well, you're
like
right. That's true, and that would be
22.
like
So my
yeah.
Ruger, I'm not going to tell anybody how many Ruger 1022 mags I have. I have one. That's all I'm going to say. But
Yeah.
but those are
Like when
10
they
round.
banned those 25-round magazines and there was over 1,000,000 import records show there was over 1,000,000 imported
Butler
into
Creek.
Canada,
Yeah.
and they banned them, and guess how many were turned in?
None. Yeah.
I'm going to say 0.
0. So, yeah.
I'm not going
Well,
to
we
tell
don't
you
know
whether
what
I
that
have any of those. I definitely don't.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I have no idea.
Anyways,
But they don't
yeah,
know, what they're gonna do with that yet. So right
yeah.
now, they're saying they're going to do it, and they're saying it's coming, it'll come by OIC. It hasn't happened yet. Right now, you're okay. But yeah, I think they're probably trying to figure out how to do that in the worst possible way to screw us over as hard as possible and mess up the ability to own the guns. Like imagine owning a gun and the gun's okay, but you can't put the magazine in
Right.
it.
There's
They
nothing.
just
Yeah.
rendered your gun inoperable, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back a little bit as well, we talked about the ability if you have your our pal, you can borrow somebody's pistol, use your ATT,
Mhm.
get a lending permit through the ATT, and you can use it, and you can go and sport shoot until this is repealed or
Yeah.
reversed. However, people are asking, should they take the RPAL course? And my comments to them is absolutely 100%. Still
Oh, yeah.
continue.
So here's the thing. When the liberals are looking at something, they don't govern by data or science or evidence. They govern by polling.
Right.
And what that means is they look at a number of things. They'll poll the public to see what people's opinions on things, but they also do polling on, okay, so how many people does this affect? And like with AR-15 owners, there's what, 95,000 registered AR-15s in the country. They're
Yep.
like, it's only 95,000. Who cares? Do it to them, stomp on their heads. So when they're looking at gun owners and they see there's 2.3 million of us, that's a lot. There are more gun owners than there are Indigenous Canadians. There are more gun owners than there is LGBTQ Canadians. So it's a big group. So if they can start breaking us down and being, okay, how many RPAL owners or holders are there? Because maybe we can just pick on them, right? Maybe we can
Mhm.
stick to just hammering them in the head. Oh, there's only X amount of them. Well, let's stomp on them. So for me, I think it's really important, more important than ever, to get your RPAL. And then also remember that, it's a little bit dark right now. It's a dark time for gun owners, and it has been for a little while. And it might get worse before it gets better, but it is going to get better. And when it does, you're going to want to go out and get yourself some fun toys. So you
Right.
don't want to be standing in line waiting to get into an RPAL course if everything opens back up, because it will be years long waiting lists. So go get it now. And then when things get fixed, you'll be ready to go.
Excellent advice, Tracy. So, along with that, some good advice to gun owners and future potential gun owners. What are some of the other things we, the gun community, can do while you are working hard as lobbyists and the problems of the leadership of the day, so to speak, are continuing? What can we do? Do we have a list of action items that
Yeah.
CCFR has put together?
Yeah. So there's three main things that you guys can do right now, and you can keep doing it. Number one, become a member of the CCFR. Shameless plug. I'm always going to say that. Number two, keep contacting your MPs, especially if they're Liberal, NDP, a Bloc, Green, whatever. The Conservatives, they pretty much know where they are, right? But
Call
those
them
other
too.
guys, just because the bill is passed and there's nothing on the table right now, keep writing into them. Voice your concern with the way that they're treating gun owners. Let them know that you're going to start talking to your mom groups, to your local BIAs, all the little clubs that you're in your community outside the gun community. You're going to start talking to all those people and convince
Yep.
them not to vote for them. These people are only led by they're governed by their desire to maintain power. So if they don't hear from you guys, they're like, well, C-21 passed. Nobody said a word. It's over and done now. Everything's quiet. No problem. How can we punch them in the face next? We can't have that. They need to keep hearing from you and say, like, man, these gun owners just don't quit. They're threatening me. Well, not threatening me, but they're threatening my position of power. They're going to help their conservative candidate. They're going to infiltrate their mom groups on Facebook and all these other community groups. And I'm going to lose my seat. And that's when you're going to see them stop supporting their party's policy. And that's exactly what we need. There's already been quite a bit of that in the Liberal ranks. There's been some
Yeah.
MPs from out east and from the Yukon who have like voted against their party's policy. And that never happens with the Liberals. So we need more of that. Get politically involved with your own candidate. If you are in an area where you've got a conservative candidate running, find out how you can help them. And then thirdly, take somebody to the range or out to the back 40 or whatever, take them hunting or
Yep.
even just strike up conversation. If you've got a work friend at the office that maybe isn't a gun owner. Strike up a conversation, invite them for a beer after work, see if they'll go to the range with you. The you know, it would be nice if every single Canadian was a gun owner, but we don't really need that. We just need them to stop supporting bad liberal policy.
Right.
So join the CCFR,
Yep.
shameless plug, become politically active against the bad MPs and for the good MPs. And then number 3, take people out shooting. That is the number one most important thing you can do.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Tracy. Thank
Yeah.
you. And thank you, Kelly, or Kate, sorry. Thank you, Tracy. And thank you, Casey, for posting the contact information for the CCFR.
Yes,
Right.
thank you.
Wow, that was a struggle.
So with the other thing with the CCFR, you were talking about how much money it is costing us. It's cost as Canadians and our gun ownership, but you need to be able to support those that are supporting us. The CCFR has a website that you can go to and you can click on donate. What's next for the CCFR? You have some other things, irons in the fire as well. We know that we
Yeah.
recently had a decision on the May 1st OIC. It wasn't
Yeah,
in our
like,
favor.
there's not a
Unfortunately.
lot of times where I feel like falling apart, but getting that news, that was one of those times.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult. We launched the largest, most comprehensive court challenge on behalf of gun owners in the history of the country.
Yeah.
And we had 7 different, mini challenges within our challenge. And I didn't think we'd win on all of them, but I actually thought we were going to win on a couple of them. And I think
Mhm.
most of us did. So,
Yeah, I thought we were
reading the
close.
judge's decision, she sided with the government on every single thing. Normally, I've read many court decisions in my time, and normally the judge sort of, cites previous cases or case law, explains her interpretation of the law, whatever. And you can kind of read it and be like, oh, okay, I see how she came to that. It wasn't like that at all. She stated, the applicant says this, the Attorney General of Canada says this, and I side with them. And that was her decision.
That was it.
So reading it, it was like, what? Like, where's your interpretation of the law? She didn't seem to give any. So, yeah, that was pretty disappointing. And, I mean, we can't sit around crying in our cereal bowls about it. So we picked ourselves up, dusted ourselves off, and filed an appeal in the federal court. So, yeah, we're going to file an appeal. Of course, now the Liberals are coming after us for costs. So we're going through some mediation for that. So, it wasn't enough to kick us in the teeth. And we ran up $2.3 million in legal bills fighting them. Now they want to give us their legal bills too. So,
Oh, by the way, who's paying that bill? We are as Canadian citizens.
yeah,
we're
that's right.
yeah.
Well,
So,
and there was actually 6 altogether. There was 6 challenges against the government. We were sort of, the parent challenge, I suppose you could say, and then the kids were underneath of us. And it's funny because you look at the bill that the Liberal government has sent, to the courts expecting us to pay it, and they basically billed all the applicants for the same stuff. So it's like billing 6 times, right? For the same work. So it's funny, but anyways,
no.
not funny, haha, but funny like, oh my God.
Sounds like
Oh.
liberal math to me.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
liberal math. But yeah, we're gonna fight it. We are gonna have to give them something, but at the same time, we are appealing it. So we'll see if there's anything we can do there. Put off that, the money talk maybe until after a decision in the appeal. And then if need be, we'll take it all the way to the Supreme Court. We promised gun owners that we would do everything in our power, that we'd leave no stone, unturned and no avenue unexplored. And we meant it. So we're going to take it all the way. And at the same time, if we can't get a solution in the courts, we'll get a solution in the arena of politics. So
Right.
we need a political solution. We need an election.
So can we talk about that quickly? I know that we're running long, but this is a really important subject matter
Mhm.
for everyone. Can we talk about how next there will be an election? It'll be coming. They've already announced that October 2025 is when I think we'll have an election before then, based
Yeah.
on my thoughts and feelings and what I'm seeing. Can we talk about what Canadians, what we need to do in order for us to have resolution to this, because it is reversible. It's not irreparable.
Yeah,
But
there's nothing that's been done that can't be undone. Things are more difficult, of course, when you have to use the legislative process. But if you have the votes to do it, you can do anything. And a
right,
majority conservative government could literally undo it, right? Whether or not they have the political will be up to us to hang ourselves off their neck and make sure it happens. But there's a couple of weird things that are happening. So, of course, the Liberals are tanking in the polls, which incentivizes them not to call an election because they know they would
right.
lose, right? But the only reason they're being propped up right now is because the NDP is holding them up, which basically is giving them sort of like a majority government, right? Like a coalition. But you see the NDP also coming up in the polls. The Conservatives are blowing it out of the water, which is great. And hopefully they need to maintain that. But the NDP are coming up. And I was talking to Rod about it. This is a couple of weeks back, and it's been mused about by several journalists since. But I said, wouldn't it be funny to see Jagmeet Singh become the leader of the official opposition and move into Stornoway Mansion, and to see Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party reduced to third party status or not even an official party, and that could very well happen. So, to be perfectly honest, I'm almost, inside cheering on the NDP as well, because I think the moment Jagmeet Singh sees the opportunity to be the 2IC, the second in command, the official leader of the opposition,
It'll
I
be
think he's gonna
divorce
pull the plug
between
on
the
that
Liberals and the
agreement.
NDP. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and he pulls the rug out from under, Trudeau, and we go to an election, then it's all hands on deck, like red alarms, red alerts, sirens, like, "Let's go."
Battle
Yeah.
stations, battle stations.
Oh, yeah. So we're already working on our election plan because we don't wanna the last election, of course, it was terrible timing. In the middle of the pandemic, it was that vanity election that Trudeau called, and Rod was in the middle of cancer treatment. Like, it was just I ended up spending 16 days living out of a van delivering pamphlets. Like, it was insane, right? So
Yeah.
this time, we need to be in a far better position and be able to utilize and mobilize far more people. So
Yep.
don't worry. We have been working hard on that plan. It's coming together and it's going to be absolutely insane. And of course, we will register as third party political advertisers for the third time. So
Sweet.
yeah, that's what we need is we need an election. But and when that time comes, or even now, like, it doesn't hurt now. I joined my EDA after the last election simply because our results here in my riding were miserable. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I don't know everything, but I know something. I've got some time and some talent and I care. Let's get together. I want to help and I want to get a candidate in place that's going to win. And yeah, we're polling really well here in my little riding of Orleans. So yeah,
Awesome.
just
So
get
that's a
involved.
great segue, Tracy, to the last question I would like to ask. So, because you are on the She Shoots podcast, we usually end our podcast with some questions about getting women involved in the firearms industry, and I want to tilt that question a little bit. What can women do to be more impactful to changing the policy, to changing the government? What can women do? Where is our power, Tracy? What do you think we should do or could do?
Well, I'll tell you, this has sort of long been a male dominated industry, like many other industries, right? And, I guess for the most part, it still is. We still have more male gun owners than we have female. But if you look at the change, just even in the last 10 years, we never had women at the helm of major firearm advocacy organizations. We didn't have women hosting firearm podcasts. We didn't have women running Project Maple Seed or programs like that, marksmanship programs. We didn't have Lady Guns that was taking women to the range. So we've already done leaps and bounds from where we were even just a short decade ago. So continue that. If you're a girl or lady out there who's watching this podcast and you're wondering, like, I like guns, I like to go to the range, I like to shoot, get involved with these groups. Call if you're out in the Alberta area, call up Lady Guns. Get involved. Find out where there's women's range days in your area. If you're a member of a range, go to your executive and say, "Hey, I'd like to coordinate a women's range day here at the club. I need some volunteers. I need your support and I need your help, and let's get it done." And if you're looking for help on that, you can literally contact any one of us.
Yep.
And all of us would be we all work together. So we'd be more than happy to help you out with that. And I think you guys just produced some videos on how to host those, which is fantastic. So make sure you check those out. But I honestly think women, we need to sort of continue to infiltrate and work our way up through the web of our community, whether it's working in gun shops, taking people out hunting, becoming involved and volunteering for advocacy organizations, participating in marksmanship programs and ladies' days. Like, just keep doing it, gather your friends, and just keep pushing. And eventually it'll just be commonplace. It'll just be the way it is, right? And it breaks that negative stereotype. There's nothing wrong with guys and buds. I got lots of buds at the range too. But it sort of breaks that stereotype. Even you go look at the
Exactly.
pinned tweet on Paulie Soussouvien's Twitter feed, and it's, a white guy with his belly sticking out and his lumberjack shirt and his shotgun, and you know what I mean? And it's like, that's what they are trying to portray gun owners as, and we know that's not true. So, yeah,
Mhm.
just keep at it. It's really important because women vote and women make a lot of decisions in their homes, and that's why it's really important to make sure that we gather more women together, hold each other up, and hey, you make lifelong friends. Look at us, right? So,
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It is
Yeah.
absolutely true. And I always say when I'm doing my my soapbox speeches about gun ownership, and what I always say is that women, we always have twice as many words to describe or explain anything, and we tend to. So we not only do we talk more, but we talk to more people, and so we seem to be incredibly social amongst our social circles. So I would agree that getting one woman involved that has a good network is worth the price of admission by any means, because we are very good at lifting each other up and helping each other get into new and exciting things. And to your point, Tracy, those of us that are in this, reducing those barriers to entry and taking the scared and the uncomfortable out of shooting sports. So thank you. So that was my last question. Kelly, do you have anything else before we go to all these other questions that have been coming in?
Yeah. So before we go to those, I just want to say again to Tracy, thank you so much for coming on. A great interview.
I love being here.
But it wasn't really an interview. It was a talk.
I talk a lot, though. I am long-winded. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, it was very informative, and we love hearing from you and all the information that you're able to give us. You answered some really good questions. Those are the questions that I've been getting in my DMs. People send me questions in the DMs.
Yes. Slide into your DMs,
they're not into my DMs, but they're asking gun questions. So those are all the questions that people have been asking, and you were able to clarify and debunk some of those myths that people have as well. So again, thank you very much for coming on season 3, episode number 1, the first one. It's hard to believe we've been around 3 years already.
It's great.
Like we just started yesterday. But yeah, why don't we get into those questions? Because people have been, you've been chatting, or we've been chatting. People have been asking questions, and Casey's been in the background. She's been keeping track of those. So we have some people that have asked questions. Let's get to it.
All right.
So I'm just going to pop that up there. So our first question is from, where'd it go? Cara D, and it's, what about the instructors who can no longer transfer their training handguns?
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah,
they're done.
Yeah, that's a problem. I don't believe they're included in the carve out, although the people who are included in the carve out aren't being carved out. So yeah, it's a serious problem, and I know that instructors and even ranges that you can pay and play, go in and try the guns. I know that they're very worried about that. So yeah, it's a problem, which is, the sooner we can get an election and get these things fixed, the better we'll get back on track.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name, William Pear. was asking about, I know you had meant, or you had answered this a little bit, but aren't you supposed to be able to buy a pistol for Olympic style competitions?
Mhm.
How is that supposed to work, and how is it working now?
Yeah, so it's a carve out for Olympic shooters or Paralympic shooters, um, for their coaches and for them. Now, Alinda Keiko is an Olympic pistol shooter, and she has tried to acquire a new pistol with that carve out and hasn't been successful at it. And she's in Alberta, so she's got a really friendly CFO, but she hasn't been able to. They haven't granted that exception for her. So if they're not granting it for her, they're not going to grant it for anybody else. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is a problem, and it's something that I will be reaching out to. I actually had a meeting with the Minister of Justice from Alberta just recently when we were on a calendar tour, and it's something I'm going to be reaching out to him to see how they can help. They have agreed as well to intervene on our appeal in the federal court. But yeah, this is where the Liberals have said, "Don't worry, Olympic shooters, we're going to protect you. We're going to protect the Canadian heritage," and then they didn't. So it's
So
the Liberal government lying to you.
I have just a tag up on that one. Is that carve out just for Olympians? What about future Olympians? There is no such thing as future Olympians now.
No,
It's
Okay.
people. It's people who are already in the system that are
I just wanted to
actually
clarify
at
that.
that level. Yeah,
So that
there
means
is.
it's the end of Olympics when they
yeah, that's right.
retire. Okay,
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
disappointing.
that's super sad. Okay, so our next question is from Gwen Van Cleef, and it's, does it help to write more letters to the government like we did before?
Yeah, it does, because it'll prevent them from doing anything more. Like, I feel like, we've got this massive tidal wave bearing down on us and we're barely holding it back. In fact, in essence, we're not. But I think if they've been through hell trying to get all this stuff done, right? 19 months to get C-21 through, which is sort of unheard of. C-71, you may remember from a few years back, was 14 months. And the anti-gun lobbies were lighting their hair on fire that it was taking so long. And we were able to get C-21 delayed for 19 months. Um, it's been a hard battle. It's been in the news. It's been amendments introduced, amendments withdrawn. It's been a mess. The media's had a feeding frenzy with it, and I think the Liberals are a little exhausted from it. So you keep writing those Liberal and NDP MPs, and the Bloc too. They're definitely unfriendly, and complaining about this stuff, and they'll just know, they'll be like, you know what? Let's just not do any more of that right now. We've done enough. And that's exactly what we need. We need to be able to breathe a little bit, regroup, and prepare for a new government.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And I think the last question that I have here, lots of comments too. So is from Tasha McLeod, and she's asking, do Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, Girl Guides, pardon me, still offer firearms training? And I can answer for my club in BC that they do.
Oh, they
The
do?
Boy Scouts do anyways. I don't know about the Girl Guides.
I know here in Calgary they have range days, whether you want to call it a training day or not. I know they have range days at some of our local ranges where the kids get the opportunity to fire firearms. So
Right.
Yeah, I've heard of that around here as well. Of course, I mean, like anything, you can still take other people to the range. You can still take new shooters who've never shot a gun before and take them to the range. So, so yeah, there's still an ability to do that, but check with your local troops and see if they're still doing it.
Normally, it's not something that's truly organized. Like every Thursday night, all the Boy Scouts will go over and to the range and they'll shoot 22s. They've converted most of it to air rifle, just like cadets. They're usually typically will shoot to air rifle, but there is 22s that they'll shoot as well. So, but I personally have been asked about arranging something for the Boy Scouts. I'd love to see Girl Scouts or Girl Guides. We're not Scouts. Girl Guides go to the range as well, so that both equally, so that we have that next generation coming up and shooting, doing it safely and learning about firearms. And
Yeah, I love
how
that. I
important that
remember
is.
Colin and I took a group of Ducks Unlimited youth hunters,
Mhm.
and we took them to the range for a tactical day. And none of them, this was back before all these crazy bans, and none of them had ever seen, anything tactical. And
Yeah.
Kelly can attest to some of the stuff we owned between Colin and I. And it was like, it was like playing a game of Call of Duty or something. They thought it was a riot, but they had a great time and they were so grateful. So it was a lot of fun.
I just want to mention that there's some really good comments that are currently on there, especially by Emily Sanford Brown. Emily, thanks for making all those comments. Emily is also a world-class shooter,
Yes.
but she's also a conservative candidate. She's also a CCFR Gunny Girl calendar alumni. But not only that, she's making some really great comments. She also is somebody that works with the Canadian University Shooting Federation.
And she's a nomination candidate for the riding of Burlington for the Conservative.
And I will 100% support her in that endeavor also. But she does make a great point about the Canadian University Shooting Federation will subsidize their members with our PAL courses too. So go out and do that. I think they also subsidize members if they go to a Project Maple Seed event too. We just talked about that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's going to be a little bit of a fight for a while to, introduce new people, get young people involved. Like they're making it more and more difficult for us. But just, when it's tough like this, you got to tie a knot in that rope and hang on, because we are going to ride this out and it's going to be a little painful. But we're going to get through this and we're going to turn things around. So, I know sometimes it feels like we just keep getting beat up, but do not let these people steal that happiness from you.
That would not be the Canadian way now, would it?
No.
Every time I think that there's nothing more that can happen, it's like the liberals say, "Here, hold my beer."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Watch this.
Unfortunately true. So before we move on to some prizes, Tracy, I just wanted to thank you again for coming on, but also for giving a shout out to our webinar series. Casey.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you guys. I love that.
The four of us took a Saturday over the holidays to record a bunch of episodes. So now all of our mastermind is literally put on the internet and it's broken down into bite-sized pieces. So anybody can follow along on how to put together range days and get sponsors and take care of attendees. So thanks so much for the shout out. For that, Tracy, and for everybody that has been commenting on the social media posts about how much they're looking forward to it. So, but speaking of looking forward to things, Rahina, everybody wants to hear from you now because you're giving away the prizes.
Yeah, that's let's just increase the mood a little bit. Let's get let's see. We got let's go ahead and do the She Shoots t-shirt first, Casey. So there's lots of comments, so lots of counting for you today.
I did it already.
Oh, perfect. There we go.
All right. So our She Shoots t-shirt winner is I passed it. Emily Sanford Brown.
Oh,
yay. Now you can represent us. You'll have your own t-shirt.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So Facebook, so that means Deneen will be contacting Emily, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Or Emily can contact me. I'm sure there's contact info, and we'd love to see pictures of Emily proudly wearing her She Shoots t-shirt.
Okay, so second, let's do the Canada First ammo prize pack, please.
Okay, and that will be Cara D.
Yay, congratulations.
Awesome.
Okay. And lastly, thanks to Tracy's generosity today, we have a CCFR prize pack. So who won that one?
And that is Gwen Van Cleef.
Yay, congratulations to all our winners today.
Awesome. You guys get me Gwen's information and find out what size she wears, and I'll send her a nice prize pack.
Okay, you might even get a women's program hat, just like
See, we have a perfect model today.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, yes, congratulations to all our winners. Thanks so much, Tracy. We already shared the CCFR website. Do we have Tracy's social medias if she wants to share those?
Well, you can
How do
find
we
me
get
on
up? How do they
Twitter.
get a hold of you?
Yeah, my Twitter is probably the best place to find me, at T Wilson Ottawa. So you can find me on there, and I'm on Facebook as well. I do have an Instagram account, but to be honest, when you can't share links, it doesn't suit me.
Mm.
I'm not a big picture person, so it's difficult for me. But I do have an account on there. But make sure you're following the CCFR. We're literally everywhere.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep, awesome. Thank you so much. So I'll go ahead and move on to our upcoming events. So we've mentioned the masterclass series that we've shared. If you want to go see it, it's on this Canadian University Shooting Federation YouTube page, as well as the Lady Guns YouTube page. And then we started sharing them through the Canadian University Shooting Federation Facebook page. And Denise's also sharing them through the Lady Guns Facebook page. So we're trying to have it in as many locations as possible so you can all watch it. And then other than that, the CUSF is looking for volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers. So if you're interested in being a volunteer, please send us a brief email at submissions@cusf.ca. Also, if you're a student at a Canadian university that does not have a gun club and you're interested in starting your own, please send us an email at submissions@cusf.ca. Yes, since this is the last semester, so summer will be the time to talk to your university student organizations to get your clubs get started. So this is probably the best time to contact us so we can help you out before the summer gets here. And other than that, Deneen, Lady Guns.
I'm just looking forward to all the stuff we're going to do next for International Women's Day, because of course we're going to do something again in March to promote and encourage women getting out. And I'm always happy to be a range officer or support that. So that's something we've talked about. And as far as Lady Guns activities, there aren't any currently on the calendar. We're just going to try and stay warm for a while.
Perfect. Kelly Mapleseed.
So can't talk. So
Easy for her
Mapleseed,
to say.
right? Mapleseed is planning our 2024 season currently right now. We're reaching out to clubs across the country. We'll be populating our website, so look for those events as they are confirmed. We will also be helping out, or specifically me, probably in the Ottawa area for the Ladies' Day that's going to be happening, or the International Women's Day that's going to be happening in March. So come out to Ottawa. I'll be there. But we are looking for volunteers. We're looking for volunteers through Project Mapleseed, but I do know that Tracy recently posted something on the CCFR about volunteers. Tracy, are we looking for volunteers?
CCFR is always looking for volunteers. You can send an email to volunteer@ccfr.ca.
Perfect.
Oh, someone took a picture. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I'll go ahead and do our outro. Hopefully it goes better than the intro did. I'm just a little rusty at those holidays. Okay, so thank you again to Cabela's Canada Outdoor Fund, Savage Arms, Breda, Vortex, and Canada First Ammo. If you liked today's episode, please leave us a like and follow us so you don't miss out on any of our episodes. You can watch us on YouTube and Facebook, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. If you liked our message and would like to learn more about our programs, check out our websites at cusf.ca, ladyguns.ca, and mapleseedrifleman.com. To support us and get some additional perks, check out our membership programs. Thank you all for tuning into the She Shoot Podcast Season 3 premiere, Episode 24, Breaking Down Bill C-21. Make sure to join us on February 13 for the next episode of the She Shoots Podcast at our regular time, 5 p.m. PST, 6 p.m. EMST, 8 p.m. EST, and whatever other time zone you're part of. It's the same. And keep an eye on our social media pages for the next episode announcement. So thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.